We've read a little bit about your 9-point plan for the economy. Would you mind telling us a little bit about what it entails?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing about the plan for the economy is the changes that it would make in education. That is the most important thing that we can do as a nation. There was a time in this country when we were the most intelligent people in the world. We were the first country to require our kids to go to school, and we did it during a time that most countries wouldn't let the average kid go to school.
Right.
So, and that made us the innovators. And there, during that time, if you bought, no matter where you were in the world, if you bought a car, you bought an American car. If you bought a radio, you bought an American radio. TV, you bought an American TV. And over time, that's changed. And if you look at Americans' share of the global economy, and you look at where it was and where it is, and then you look at a graph on education funding, where it was and where it is, and the two correlate. And so, the biggest thing about my plan is investment in education. My plan would invest $90 billion a year in education. 65 billion of that would go to repair, replace, and expand our dilapidated schools. The other 25 would go to provide the school systems with technology. A lot of the schools don't have effective Wi-Fi. They've got computers that are more than 10 years old. And, we can't really expect our teachers to teach our kids the technologies of the future using the technologies of the past. That just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So, this is something that we need to do. And as far as, the buildings that we're using, the biggest majority of the schools that our children go to school in were made or built to educate the baby boomers. They're old, a lot of them are falling apart, and they just don't meet the needs. There's a lot of them that have been maintained well and are still completely usable, but even those schools have problems like they don't have, sufficient wiring, for the computer systems and everything else they need because they were, built in a different era that, didn't require that kind of power. But, $65 billion a year over 10 years, $650 billion would be enough to basically build 32,500 or 32,250 brand new schools, which that is the equivalent of 1/3 of all public schools in this country.
Wow.
Now, we're not going to, tear down and rebuild. Some of that will be, it's actually going to affect about 2/3 of the schools because, a lot of them will be getting improvements. Only probably 10 to 15% of the schools will actually be replaced. And then you've got probably another 5% of brand new schools. And then a lot of the schools, it'll just be repairs, updating them, that kind of thing. But, just making sure that our kids get a primary education is not enough. There's studies out right now that show that 2/3 of all jobs will require a college education or some form of advanced training by 2020, and less than 40% of Americans over 25 are qualified to fill those jobs. So if we don't do something, those jobs are going to ship off overseas.
Something has to change.
So we need to make an investment in higher education too. And my plan for higher education would actually change the Pell Grant system. It would raise the Pell Grant from around, I think right now they just raised it, I think it's about $5,800. It would raise the Pell Grant to $10,300, which is the average cost of tuition, fees, and books at the average American public university. Doing that and changing the way that the EFC or the expected family contribution is figured so that students get more of the money and more kids qualify will allow a lot more children the opportunity to go to college, and it will make it to where we can fill those jobs. Because this is not something, people seem to look at this and like it'll take forever. And that's just not the case. That first class that starts high school, with the new buildings and the new technologies, will make a difference in 4 years.
Yeah.
It's not something that's going to take 30 years down the road. Now granted, the kids the kids are gonna even be better that started,
Yeah.
grade,
Okay.
first grade, with everything that they needed. But, it's something that's gonna have immediate results. And like I said, innovation is the key to everything. It's the key to a strong economy, because innovation, it is what made our country great. It's that simple. We were the innovators. And getting that back, we need to invest in things like green technologies, because that is the future of power. And whatever country it is that leads on that is going to lead in the global economy.